I am 11 hours ahead of New York in the Far East, so for me the night time is basically daytime, and I ended up being glued to the screen the whole day as the election unfolded. I want to make some comments about the future and what is going to come, and a few other pieces of information. But before I go into that, I recommend that you go down to my shopping page, and I now have t-shirts both with Spring as well as Amazon. You can buy stuff from Spring as well, but I'm probably going to end up deleting that store. For today it's fine, but eventually it's going to be deleted. I prefer to focus on Amazon, and you can just click on the merchandise, and that's going to take you to my Amazon page, which pretty much features all the items I have put out so far, which is not a lot. I have the Brompton for the most part, but this is my new product, my latest idea. Unfortunately, it does not have a magnifying feature, probably because of something I need to do to achieve that. I don't know how to do it, but you can buy it in a bunch of sizes, and I'm going to show you separately what the illustration looks like. This is what it looks like. It is my hand-drawn illustration. I don't want a photo, and I don't want like a cheap, poorly done illustration. So I actually spent quite a number of hours working on this. And the same is true with the Brompton. I mean, you can get a variety of products with the Brompton illustration on it. That's also entirely handmade. So back to the election, I'm giving you a link below to this Bloomberg application because I think it's really useful. It gives you the internal details of how various counties within the state voted. So in New York, everything is blue, obviously, except for Staten Island, which is actually a surprising 2/3 Republican, and Long Island as well. But the Hudson Valley is almost all blue, and the cities as well. Unfortunately, the Northeast is entirely blue. I was hoping for New Hampshire, but the only good news is Pennsylvania. But even in PA, the cities are all blue. It's the countryside that it's not so much. In the deep red, that's almost like purple. So Pennsylvania is just barely red, basically 2%. But once I return to the US, that's probably going to be the state where I'm going to go, because I don't want to live in a blue state given what they have done. I mean, during the last 4 years, they shattered my career, took away my Manhattan apartment. They really tried to destroy people's lives as much as possible. I don't know how many millions of people lost businesses, homes, and careers, which they have not regained in the last 4 years, but it's definitely running in the millions. We have a war, and only 1% of Americans care about the war in Eastern Europe. They do not realize how dangerous it is and how quickly it can explode into an all-out nuclear conflict. So the idea in the mind of the average voter is, it can't happen here. Well, I'm assuming that if it does happen, it's going to be too late to think about it, because a nuclear shootout would happen within minutes and hours, and the destruction is going to be so great that most people won't survive to lament about what happened. So that's all I want to say. And also about the race, the past, this administration has not achieved anything. Every time they open their mouth, they talk about nothing but race, gender, sex, all the divisive identity elements that people cannot change about themselves. And as far as pointing to any achievement, there is no achievement to point to. They destroyed the economy, they destroyed the health of people, especially the younger generations. They started a multiplicity of bloody wars and exterminations. I would say at least 1 million people are dead or disfigured in Europe, maybe 100,000 in the Near East, maybe 200,000. 30 million people are homeless and wandering refugees in Europe from the Ukraine. The economies of Europe are in horrible shape, not just the Germans, it's everyone. And the economies of US, Canada, and even out here in the Far East. The situation is a little better because obviously Southeast Asia is getting money from China, Russia, from Central Asia, but you can definitely feel that roughly half of the economy of this world had been switched off, and that's North America and Europe. This is the past and the present. I'm going to put a link to this parody below as well. I think it's really funny. This guy is using this Hitler movie called The Downfall. If you haven't seen it yet, I recommend that you do see it. This is a Swiss actor who plays Hitler, and he keeps on making parodies out of the same scene on various topics. Like in this one, Hitler reacts to Trump winning the election. I think it's pretty funny. So what's going to happen in the future? I think the future is really quite troubling, because if these people were willing to go so far as to try to kill Trump twice, they also tried to kill the Prime Minister of Slovakia because he was beginning to sound peaceful tones and not willing to continue with the offensive against Ukraine. So they are quite willing to kill the highest ranking of people, even in the US. If they are willing to do that, they will not stop at anything. There's going to be, once Trump is inaugurated, there's going to be riots everywhere, all kinds of demonstration, every kind of civilian resistance, maybe even a civil war around the cities. I just don't see how anybody can go house to house and arrest all the illegals without some form of resistance, some violence, something like that. This has never been done in history, so if it's going to be done, I'm not opposed to it, but I just don't see technically how this is feasible or how it's going to be accomplished. It's kind of a raw solution, if you ask me. But other than that, I expect prosperity to return for 25, not just because of a pro-business attitude, but also because we have not done much during the last 2 years, especially 22. We were filling some orders that weren't done in 20 and 21, and then we were not filling orders in 22 or 23 and 24. And so in 25 there's going to be a lot of projects that were on the back burner. And I know this because I have spoken to so many companies about this, and so many projects have been shelved. So there's going to be a good economy. But I also think that the people who are against Trump are going to provoke a nuclear war one way or the other. If they cannot get it done with the Russians, then they will do it in the Near East and the Middle East, something around Iran, Syria, Turkey, something like that. And that is not something Trump, in my opinion, can prevent. I mean, there are so many fires he has to put out. And then I'm putting a link below for this one as well. I don't know if you've heard about this case, but this guy had a squirrel, a domesticated squirrel of 7 years in New York State, which the Democrat government of New York seized from him in a 5-hour siege of his animal sanctuary. And they killed the squirrel. I mean, if somebody tried to take my pet, for me, the dog, the cat, squirrel, I don't care what it is. If it's anything bigger than a tiny goldfish, I would fight to the death. And this is all the more reason for people to be armed. And I'm dead serious about this, because government is out of control, and I don't know what's going to happen next year with the deportation of 10 or 50 million people and all the rioting going on. I think it's a good idea for everybody to be armed. As far as Kamala taking my Brompton, that has not been successful, and hopefully it's never going to be successful. They took a lot, but not the Brompton. Okay, this has been a somewhat unusual video, but I just had to chime in on the election because this is just such a life-changing event. The whole world has been watching it, and with good reason.
I'll be back.